In the spring of 2025, some people find treasure in antique shops. Me? I found this beast in a scrap pile at the local wet market. The tank said Kawasaki, but what really caught my eye was that massive engine and its aggressive, upswept tail. It even looked like it was sitting on racing slicks, though whatever accident it had was bad enough to completely shear off the front forks. After a bit of a struggle, I managed to pry it free. Then I just had to, casually get it home with a forklift. Back at the shop, I weighed it. 279 yen, or about 140 kilos. The scrap dealer sold it to me for 7 yuan per kilo. Considering its massive throttle body and those track day tires, I had a feeling this was a gamble worth taking. Fix it up, sell it to some rich kid after graduation. I could probably make a decent profit. This thing must have been sitting for a long time. The tires were showing massive signs of dry rot. Even the rear fender was completely busted up, but looking at the engine casing, there were no obvious cracks or oil leaks, which was a good sign, although all 4 exhaust pipes were cut clean off right at the base. I suspect someone scavenged the catalytic converter. Even the high-end shock absorber was sliced right through. Honestly, its current state was even worse than that 750 I picked up last year. Alright, gloves on, time to get to work. I can't believe they just cut up such a nice shock absorber like that. And look at the handlebars, they're bent into a perfect X shape, but none of that matters. As long as I can get this engine to turn over, I'd say this was a bargain. So the first order of business is to see if this heart can still beat. I stripped off all the damaged fairings, exposing the frame, which actually looked surprisingly straight. The only problem is, there's no key. But that's never stopped me before. I have my ways. If worst comes to worst, I'll just bypass the ignition switch entirely. Seriously, if you ever lose your keys, just give me a call. I'm your guy. Now, let's hook up a battery and see if there are any signs of life. Well, I'll be damned. Of all the wrecks I've worked on, this is the only one that just turned on the moment I connected the power. Okay, next up. The fuel system. This is what's left of the gas tank. I don't know who did it, but they punched a massive hole in it. It's beyond repair, but I'm hoping the fuel pump inside might still be salvageable. It looks filthy on the outside, but since it's mostly plastic, it hasn't rusted through like the tank. I've got a few donor bikes lying around, so I can just borrow a tank from one of them for a test run. Using a highly scientific eeny meeny miny mo method, I selected this tank from a Suzuki. The connectors don't match, of course, so I'll just hotwire it for now. Alright, we have fuel, we have power, let's try to start it. Wish me luck.
祝我好运。
That's not right. It has fuel and electricity, it should have started. Don't tell me. It has no compression. If the engine has no compression, then my brother and I have definitely lost money on this deal. I pulled a spark plug and hooked up my compression tester. After 2 tries, it showed a healthy 7+ bars of pressure. So that's not the problem. We have fuel and we have compression. I moved on to check the ignition circuit. And just as I suspected, the spark plug isn't firing at all. So the problem has to be somewhere in the wiring. I checked everything. The brake and clutch sensors, the fuses. I even started to suspect the ECU was fried in the crash. But as I was about to unplug the ECU, I noticed this little red light blinking insistently on the dash. I popped the instrument cluster off, and hidden underneath was a key-shaped icon. And then it hit me. Of course, this bike has a chip-based immobilizer. It needs a key with the correct transponder chip to start. A simple bypass won't work. Looks like I'll have to consult my book of forbidden techniques for this one. After some creative sourcing, I acquired this tiny little thing. Since I didn't have the original key, I had to remove the ECU and call in a lot of favors to find someone who could solve this little chip problem for me. The system is now detecting the chip. If it starts up now, it'll officially be the most stubborn machine I've ever had to revive. Wish me luck. Oh, come on. The oil filter is leaking. In just that short burst, look how much oil sprayed out. Okay, no big deal. I'll just swap it for a new one. Let me tell you, at this moment, I was still blissfully naive, thinking a simple oil filter swap would be the end of my problems. I thought I could just put a new one on and be done with it. That tiny little startup just cost me nearly a full liter of engine oil. I've ordered more, but I'll wait until I'm sure the engine is sound before I do a full oil change. Alright, let's try this again. Wish me luck. You have got to be kidding me? The engine case is cracked too? This bike is just relentless. I bet all the fresh oil I just put in is on the floor again. I took off the engine side cover. The internal parts still look brand new, but there's a huge crack right at the bottom. I started the engine for a grand total of maybe 6 seconds, and it managed to dump its guts all over my floor. This bike just doesn't give me a break. I'm starting to think this thing is cursed. I used my AC TIG welder to carefully patch up the cracked engine cover. Then, I ground the weld down smooth, gave it a coat of paint, and it was ready to be reinstalled. Hopefully that's the last of the drama from this engine. And with that, I poured in my second fresh bottle of oil. At this point, I have no idea what state this engine is in, but I know it's already cost me 2 containers of oil. I just fixed the oil leak, and now it's spraying gasoline everywhere. I'm telling you, this bike is definitely cursed. I knew there was something strange about this bike when I bought it. I should have performed an exorcism right away, but I got distracted and forgot. Now it's just one problem after another. The gas leak is coming from here, the fuel injector. When I tried to unplug the connector, the brittle plastic just shattered in my hand. I'm running out of patience. Okay, the engine is no longer leaking oil, and it's no longer leaking gas. Now we can finally start sourcing the other parts. First to arrive was this massive headlight assembly, followed by a used exhaust system. This one even has the catalytic converter. Then came this pair of used front forks, which cost me a small fortune, and a used gas tank. The seller swore it was original paint. But this orange color just isn't right for this bike. Anyway, most of the parts are here. Now it's time to use some dry ice to give the frame and engine a deep, thorough cleaning. They sell this stuff for 6 yuan a kilo around here. I bought 30 kilos of it. I finally managed to salvage about 90% of the tank's original shape. As for the remaining small dents, just pretend you don't see them. I then used my handheld laser welder to seamlessly reattach the bottom plate. And now, for my usual routine. First, a coat of epoxy primer for rust protection. Then, a thin skim of body filler to get the surface perfectly smooth. That's followed by a high-build primer to unify the color base. And finally, we can lay down my favorite color, a deep, vibrant green. I applied a set of high-quality replica decals. Then it's time for the final clear coat, followed by a good bake in the paint booth. And the end result is this crystal clear, deep, glossy fuel. Last pieces, the rearview mirrors. The restoration is now complete. Its weight is definitely more than the 279 Jin I started with. But if you offered me 7 yuan a kilo for it now, I would respectfully decline. Because this bike now starts and runs perfectly. The Beast renovation is officially done. Now we can take it for a test ride. But in my current scruffy state, I'm not worthy of this pristine machine. I need a restoration of my own. And let me introduce you to my restoration partner. A clean-shaven man is a sharper man. This is the new Gillette Labs heated razor I've been using. I've seen 100 years of Gillette, but this is the first electric one I've tried. It uses bronze micro-vibration tech to smooth the skin, allowing the 5 blades to get incredibly close for a faster, cleaner shave. The warming bar feels like a hot towel spa treatment for your face. It's amazing. And when you're done, it even cleans and dries itself. Much better. All right, let's go for a ride. And so, the 7 yuan per kilo, 140 kilograms Kawasaki Z1000 is fully restored. The power of this machine can only be described as explosive. You still need nerves of steel to ride this thing properly. Thanks for watching, and I wish you good health and great